Thank you for listening to this episode of the Feldencast. I'm your host, Ethan Cowan. Hello there. Welcome to episode 4 of the Feldencast. This one's called To See or Not to See, Part 1. And it's based on AY number 2, which was originally called Seeing the Heels. I've taken the opportunity with my title to emphasize that you might see the heels, you might not see the heels. For a lot of this lesson, you'll be asked to lie on your stomach, lie on your front. And I'm aware that for some of us, lying on the front for any period of time can be kind of a big ask, especially in parts of the neck and other parts. So for this lesson, and actually for any of these Feldenkrais lessons, I want to give you a big fat permission slip to just stop doing the movement whenever you feel uncomfortable. Just stop. Before we even get to any movements, I just want you to imagine that there will come a time during this lesson where you're going to feel like, oh man, my neck doesn't feel so good right now. Should I keep going? Or, wait, didn't he say something? Maybe I should just stop. Oh yeah, I could just stop. I don't know whether it's a controversial thing to say, but it feels a little countercultural. But I think maybe one of the biggest things that you could get out of a lesson like this is the experience of feeling yourself, feeling uncomfortable, and then not pushing through that, but just realizing there's no reason to keep going. Just stop. Just roll onto your back, just rest for a while, and then you just come back to the movement whenever you feel ready, even if that's tomorrow. Boy, that's some philosophy. So I don't know if any of that's true, but I want to put that out there. You can test that out, see what your experience is. This is To See or Not to See, Part 1. Please just start by lying on your back for a minute. Okay, great. Now, just roll yourself onto your front side. And on your front, just rest for a moment. Good. Now just put one hand on the back of the other hand, and then put the forehead on the hands. And then in this position, a few times, you just lift your head a little bit away from your hands and then set it back down. You really don't have to lift the head very much. Actually, all you need to feel is how high it lifts easily, because hopefully it's going to lift a little bit easier by the end of the lesson. Are you more likely to lift the head when you're breathing in or when you're breathing out? Okay, now let's get a little more specific about the setup. So now make it so that you have your right hand underneath your left hand. And then you just turn your head so that you're facing to the right. So that means that the left ear or the left cheek is resting on the back of the left hand on top of the right hand. Good. And then in this position, again, just very simply lift your head a little bit away from the hands and then set it back down. Now, what difference does it make to have the head turned? Does it make it easier to lift the head? Harder? Is it the same? Okay, now try something. So when you lift your head, see about also pushing your arms just a little bit into the floor. So the head goes a little bit backwards, the arms go a little bit forward, and the floor is right there. Now, are the arms pushing exactly equally? Does one push a little bit more? Good, and then just rest momentarily on the front in this position. Okay, now lift your head a little bit away from your two hands. Just leave it in the air somewhere. And then do a small movement where you leave the left elbow on the floor, but you bring your left hand to touch your face, and then you set the left hand back down. And just do that movement a few times. I'd imagine that's a relatively easy movement, but I don't know. Okay, good. Now set everything down. Just pause for a moment again in this position. Okay, now again, you just lift your head a little bit away from the hands, leave it up in the air. And then bring your left hand to your left cheek and just leave it on the left cheek. And then 2 or 3 times, just do a movement of lifting the left elbow from the floor and then setting it back down. So you just do it a few times, and then you can set everything back down, just rest for a moment, and then when you're ready, you do it again. So it's like a little sequence. So you first you lift your head away from the hands, you bring your left hand to the left cheek, and then just a number of times, as long as it's relatively easy, you take the left elbow away from the floor and then you put it back down. So in the moments when you're lifting your left elbow, how does that change the shape of your chest? Now, is there any tension in your legs that you can let go? Very good. Now just put everything down. Again, just pause momentarily in this position. Okay, now a number of times, very slowly, you start lifting the left elbow, and you also lift the elbow with the hand and with the head all together. So you've got this unit now. It's led by the elbow, the left hand, and the head. But what direction is it possible to lift this unit? Is there any way you could use the right arm on the floor to help you lift the left arm and the head? Okay, good. Leave it alone and now roll onto your back just to rest for a minute. Good. Now just roll yourself on your front side again. And you just set yourself up this time so that the right hand is on the back of the left hand and you're facing to the left, which means that the right ear, the right cheek is resting in the back of the right hand. And start off just lifting the head away from the two hands a little bit and then setting it back down just a few times. Remember, there's a way that you could push into the floor a little bit with the two arms to help. If you push with the two arms, do you push the same with both arms, or do you push a little asymmetrically? Good. Now lift the head and just leave it somewhere in the air, somewhere easy, not too high. And then do the movement where you just simply take your right hand a little bit away from the left hand, bring it up to the right cheek or the right ear, and then you set it back down. Now, if your right hand going to come up and meet the cheek and then move the head a little bit more in some direction, what direction would it move the head? So the right elbow stays on the floor, and what would you have to soften in your back to let the right hand move the head a little bit? Okay, great. Now just leave it and just rest for a moment in this position on the front. Okay, so now just lift your head away from the two hands, and then bring your right hand up to the right cheek, the right ear. Just leave it there. And now, with some amount of detail, you just figure out what direction can you lift the right elbow comfortably. If you're anything like me, it's a very different story on this side than it was on the other. If you're trying to make it comfortable, you might have to feel for what you can soften in the arm, or soften in the right side of the neck, soften in the right shoulder. If you're trying to make it comfortable, it also means that if it's not comfortable yet, you don't just keep doing the same thing over and over, but maybe you make it a little smaller each time, or you could also try to feel the breathing while you're moving. And also, of course, taking breaks whenever you'd like to. Good. Now just set everything down for a moment. Just pause. Good. And then a few times you just lift the right elbow, the right hand, the head all together and set them back down. Does it change anything if you don't think exactly about lifting? You think instead about kind of moving the head and the arm in some direction, a little bit away from the floor? And what about the left arm? Is it a meaningful part of this movement, or is it just kind of there? So let's say you've got this unit that's the right elbow, the right hand, the head, and you're moving it a little bit away from the floor in some direction. So what direction could the left arm push a little bit in the floor to help you lift? Okay, good. Now just pause, just long enough so you could bend your left leg. Means that you make a right angle in the left knee so that the left foot, the left heel are in the direction of the ceiling. And now in this position, now move your right elbow, your right arm, and your head so you can look in the direction of the left foot. Just in the direction means you don't have to see the foot, but you just look in that direction. So you can use the right arm to help you direct the head. And you can also use the left arm to help you direct the head. Okay, very good. Now just leave it alone and roll into your back and rest again. Okay, now on your back, just bend your two knees so your feet stand on the floor. And then interlace your fingers and bring your two hands behind your head. And then bring your two knees in the direction of your chest. And lift your head a little bit away from the floor with the help of the arms. And then like this, you just roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left, back and forth. So you've been doing very specific movements on your front, so this is just a chance for the back to do something different. So yeah, you can set the head down, pause for a moment. You're just rolling back and forth across the back. Okay, good. Now leave it all and just lengthen your legs. Just rest on your back for another 30 seconds. Okay, great. Now roll again onto your front side. And on the front, just set yourself up so that the right hand is underneath the left hand and you're facing to the right. Good. Then bend the right knee so that the right foot, the right heel are in the direction of the ceiling. So right angle in the right knee. And before you start to move, just try to picture or imagine, how are you going to use the left arm, left elbow to help you look over the right shoulder toward the right foot? And you're just picturing, imagining doing the movements. You can also feel like, what are you going to need to do with both arms? There are some parts of your back that are going to have to contract, part of the lifting. But then there are other parts of the back that are going to need to relax to get out of the way. Okay, now you've got some picture in your mind, some idea of the movement. So now actually start to do the movement. See how it is. So rather than thinking of lifting, try to imagine for a second, what if there weren't any gravity? What if you were just looking over your shoulder? You're just in a process of organizing everything so that you could maybe see your right heel. But it doesn't matter at all if you actually see the heel. Seeing the heel is fine if you can do it easily, but it's much more important to just feel how you can reorganize the back and the chest so that you can go in that direction easily. Okay, now lengthen your leg and set your head down. Just pause in this position on your front. Okay, now please, again, bend your right knee. And this time reach with your right hand so you could get a hold of your right ankle. You can move yourself over to the right as much as you need to reach the right ankle with the right hand. So the left side of your face is still resting on the back of the left hand, but the left hand might have also shifted over to the right. Good. Now in this position, start to very, very gently unbend your right leg just a little bit and then let it come back. So you start the process of straightening the right leg and then you let it bend again. And because you're holding your right ankle with your right hand, when you unbend the knee, it pulls a little bit on the right hand and also pulls on the right shoulder. And your left hand is right there on the floor, so you could also try to push a little bit with the left hand in a way that helps you unbend the right leg. What direction can you push with the left hand that's actually helpful for unbending? And I should say too, the head doesn't have to stay attached to the hand. The head can be free. You can lift the head. Some people might even be able to start to straighten the left arm a little bit. Okay, good. Now let go of the right ankle and kind of reset yourself. So come back so that the right hand is underneath the left hand and you're facing to the right, so the left cheek, the left ear is on the back of the left hand. And now how is it to move to look toward the heel? What got easier about that? Good. Now, as you move to look in the direction of the right heel, also lift the right knee a little bit from the floor. Great. Now, just leave everything again, roll onto your back, and just rest again. Good. Now roll into the front again so you could do the other side. So is the left palm on the floor, the right hand on the back of the left hand, facing to the left. And you bend the left knee so that the left foot, left heel are in the direction of the ceiling. And before you grab the left ankle, set up a reference by using the right arm to help you look over the left shoulder, the direction of the left foot. Good. Now reach with the left hand to catch the left ankle. You can shift yourself over to the left as much as you need to. And then just start the process of feeling how to unbend the left knee. And what's the best position for the right palm on the floor? This is going to push to help you a little bit. If you try to make the head free, then how does the head move? Instead of just breathing, is there a helpful way to breathe? These are so-called rhetorical questions. You don't have to get them right, but hopefully they help you feel different things. Is there anything you can soften in your abdomen? Okay, now let go of the ankle and just reset yourself back in the middle. So is the left palm on the floor, the right hand on the back of the left hand, facing to the left. And the left leg is still bent. And now just lift the right arm and the head in the direction of the left heel and just see how it is. Is there a helpful way to push with the left arm on the floor? When you lift, which part of the left arm pushes more into the floor? Is it the elbow, the forearm, the hand? And then a few times, you can also lift the left knee a little bit away from the floor as you look in the direction of the left foot. Okay, great. Now, just leave it alone, roll onto your back, and one more time, just rest for a minute. Okay, good. Now, one more time, roll onto your front. And now this time just put one hand on the back of the other hand, doesn't matter which. So you can put your forehead on your hands. And then bend both of your knees so that both feet are in the direction of the ceiling. Good. Now, starting very small, of course. Just alternately lift one knee a little bit away from the floor and then set it down. Then you lift the other knee a little bit away from the floor and set it down. Alternate like that lightly. Which knee is a little bit easier to lift? And then whichever knee lifts less, lift both knees that amount, the smaller amount. So you're still alternating, but you match the knee that lifts better down to the level of the knee that lifts worse. Okay, good. Leave it a moment and just lengthen both your legs. And now set up the hands so that the right palm's on the floor, the left hand is resting on the right hand, and you're facing to the right with the head on the hands. Good. Now bend both of your knees. And now just a few times you're going to alternate between looking in the direction of the right heel, setting your head back down, and then looking in the direction of the left heel over the same shoulder. So you just alternate like that. And it's not a problem if you're not seeing the heels. You just feel it's two different directions, the right heel and then the left heel. Good. Now, when you look in the direction of the left heel all the way around, also try to lift the left knee a little bit away from the floor. Very good. Now lengthen your two legs and just pause in your front for a moment. And feel free to come back to this movement if that wasn't enough time. But we'll keep going now. So switch everything over so you could do the other side. So you're facing the left now, the right hand on top of the left. Both knees are bent. And you just alternately look in the direction of the left heel and then in the direction of the right heel over the left shoulder. And whenever you're looking in the direction of the right heel all the way around, and also lift the right knee just a little bit away from the floor. Okay, good. Now lengthen both your legs and just rest your forehead on your hands. Now remember the first movement that you did? You're in this position and you just simply lifted your head a little bit away from the hands, straight back. Try that again, just see how it is. Did it get any easier? You could also press into the floor with the two arms to help you, but maybe you don't need to as much. Good, now rest the forehead on the hands again. And now bend your two knees one more time. And then alternately lift one knee and then set it down, then the other knee and set it down. Slowly alternate. Just feel, how does that movement affect the elbows? Everything in the upper body is quietly listening to the movement of the knees. What does it do to the elbows and the shoulders? What happens when the right knee lifts? What happens when the left knee lifts? And then very briefly, just increase the speed so you start to go quickly alternating. Great, now leave it alone and roll onto your back. And then bend the knees, put the feet staying on the floor. And interlace your fingers and bring them behind your head. And then bring your knees in the direction of the chest, lift the head a little bit from the floor. And then very gently start to roll yourself a little right, a little left. Just go back and forth across the back. Good, then roll yourself to one side so you can come up to sitting, eventually up to standing. Now, standing, how do you feel affected by what you did? How does standing feel? Is anything about your muscles a little more transparent to you? Any clearer sense of where your bones are in your body? Good, and then just finish by walking around. See how walking feels. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Feldencast. If you'd like to reach out and say hello, please do. You can email me at ethan@feldencast.com. I offer the Feldencast in a spirit of transparent generosity. If you have enjoyed your experience, and if you want to give back, please check out the Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Feldencast. Right now, this podcast is just a baby. We have, on average, 10, 12 listeners per episode. So if you'd like to help the Feldencast grow, please share this episode or any other episode that you've enjoyed, especially with family and friends. Thanks again for listening. I'm really enjoying this project, and I hope you are too.